Welcome. This is, of course, the weather stream starting at 10 o'clock. Chief Meteorologist Matt Engelbrecht. I was just looking. So, good buddy of mine, Andrew Craig Childers, back in Detroit, sent me a trailer for an upcoming movie. And I bring this to you because it is weather related. Again, he was asking me a few hours ago whether or not I've seen the upcoming trailer about the D-Day invasion. I thought, no. Intriguingly, being a meteorologist, there is a connection there. So he just sent me the trailer. I was just watching it here about 2-3 minutes ago. Well, it came on the air. Just finished watching it. Very intriguing. It's going to be a Hollywood, maybe blockbuster type movie at the end of May with that release date. And it's about the story. There's been a number of stories that have been told regarding the D-Day invasion from World War II. This is from the perspective of the meteorologist and the meteorologists that determined or helped to determine when the D-Day invasion was set to occur. If you don't know, it was actually delayed because of storms, because of the forecast. D-Day, when it originally was set in stone, they went back to the forecasters. The forecasters went to the operation, those in charge of the operation, and said, there's going to be bad weather. There's going to be weather that's going to impact the invasion. We can't do it on the day you want. We have to push it back. And again, it's a story that history has told it. I've seen it from scientific papers, professors in classes will talk about it. There's obviously some deep documentaries about it as well. But this is coming from a more storytelling type perspective. Great cast in it, so if you get the chance, it is called, of all things, Pressure. And being a meteorologist is like, oh, I see what they did there. The pressure to get the forecast right, but also the pressure of the situation, and then the atmospheric pressure playing into it. So, yeah, thanks, Drew, for turning me on to that. And hopefully, if you guys get a chance to check out the trailer, that's going to be at the end of May. So that is not what I originally wanted to talk about, but here we are, live streaming. So the next thing that we're going to go ahead and start diving into, what we have out there right now. So we've got a lot of orange now on the map. Lunar eclipse this morning. Bupkis. Didn't see any of it. Cloud cover. We talked about this yesterday at 10 a.m. that there was a small shot that we may open up the clouds a little bit for the chance of maybe seeing the lunar eclipse. Again, it peaked earlier this morning at about 6:04, but it really didn't work in our favor. So, as I said earlier, it's one of those where we're scrolling on social media, seeing what everybody else enjoyed. Here in Michiana, it was mainly cloud cover, and we got some very light rain or even light sleet kind of feel to the air right now. But this is important because this is a transition. Today or this morning is kind of the start of our warming trend, our false spring. By the end of this week, you're going to be sick and tired of me saying false spring. But if I don't say it, coming up next week, I feel bad if somebody says, I didn't know this was going to happen. Where I'm going with this. False spring, because temperatures are going to be warming up. In fact, we're going to be above freezing tonight, or at or above freezing tonight through the rest of the week. We're already starting to talk here in the First Alert Weather Center about that next cold front that is going to plunge us back down into the 30s and the 40s next Wednesday and Thursday. Still a good week or so away from that, but I at least want to give you that first alert. Things that we're monitoring, the data that we're watching come in for next week, because we're going right back into winter. So that's why I'm really hammering home the fall spring. Enjoy it while it's here, because we're going right back down into winter by next Wednesday and Thursday. I zoom this in a little bit closer. So what you're seeing is the orange, which is by definition up here, using the legend, is a mix, but it's not as clean as, I guess I really don't even need that. I just watch the clock. It's not as clean as what you're seeing. What we're not seeing is the intensity. Very, very light. This is not going to be major impacts or provide any kind of major impacts, whether it's sleet or freezing rain. In fact, temperatures right now are at 32 degrees. So anything that comes down is either going to be sleet or it's going to be rain, and a cold rain at that. We are right close to that freezing point. I will say, caveat to all that, be very careful on the overpasses, not only right now, but also later on this evening. They tend to be about 2 or 3 degrees colder than the actual temperature, if not more, as they're exposed on both sides, the top and the bottom. you may get some slick spots on the overpasses, so please be careful. So we're dealing with some light rain and maybe even some sleet. So I got the map centered kind of in between our two systems. There's West Virginia, there's Columbus, Ohio, and then down here to our south, once again, the track of the moisture is lining up into Indianapolis, central and southern Indiana, and back into Illinois. Remember, this is the same area that had that snow, had that rain just 24 hours ago. So again, there's not a lot of change. What this suggests from a meteorological perspective is what we end up doing is we try to find where the contrasting air masses are located, or where the atmosphere is setting up the tracks for moisture. And then we look to see whether or not anything is going to shift those tracks. And it hasn't. That boundary, that focus for the moisture has been right through Iowa, Illinois, central Indiana, back into Ohio, and back down here into West Virginia and Virginia the last couple of days. So it's no surprise that you get some moisture in the atmosphere. It's going to ride right along that boundary and be the focus for whatever the temperature is of the atmosphere, both at the surface and what's going up through about 30,000 feet. Yesterday, it was cold enough to support some snow and eventually rain. Today, things are shifting. You can see the lightning. Zoom in. Why not? Zoom in a little bit closer. As you get into central Indiana, but especially down towards Bloomington, remember that Bloomington's coming off of severe weather, tornadoes, confirmed tornadoes there in Indiana. Some thunderstorms. And again, what this is indicating is that we're dealing with a different temperature profile today. Temperature profile is if you have a 4-layer cake and then you slice it and you take a piece of cake, you can see the slice, and the different layers tell you what's going to happen within the atmosphere. Today, we're dealing with a different slice of the atmosphere. It looks a lot different than just 24 hours ago. It's not as delicious. I mean, it's going to be soggy with some lightning, but you put a little frosting on top of it, and maybe we got a slice of cake and a cup of coffee. Don't know where I was going with that. So again, there's lightning, there's thunder down to our south, but again, the heaviest rain is going to stay to our south. The confidence was pretty high this past weekend that we would miss out on the accumulating rainfall today because of how the atmosphere was positioning itself, with the focus being back into central Indiana and into Illinois. The time now about 10:07, so I'm getting we need to take a break, so we will do just that. The break, don't go anywhere. It's about 90 seconds. I don't think you'll have enough time to watch the full trailer. You might get a little bit into it, but just wait until after, and then you can watch the full trailer of Pressure coming up at the end of the month. Not this month, not next month, but May. See you in 90 seconds. Rhythm of life, pounding on our desk here. Just got done, Karen just called back here. She was saying, hey, we have a possibility of doing a live shot later on this afternoon, this evening. Is it going to be raining? Great question. Thank you, Karen, for that question, because not only do I have to answer that question, but it kind of tells us what's going on across the area. If I zoom this map back out, We just got done talking about it before we went to break, that the heaviest rain is mainly going to stay down to our south. We have light rain or drizzle working from the west to the east, and that is what we're going to be dealing with for the rest of the day. So I'm not expecting the evening commute to be overly wet. I'm not expecting heavy downpours. I don't even expect measurable rainfall. Light drizzle, maybe some sleet mixed in because of the profile of the atmosphere today, but for the most part, if you have anything planned outdoors, temperatures are going to be cold, but you're not going to be fighting any kind of rain or showers. Next part of this. So we talked a little bit about, we had the Pressure, the trailer, the movie that's coming out at the end of May. We didn't have it, but you can go watch it. It's about the D-Day invasion and the weather forecast that affected the D-Day invasion. Really exciting stuff there. But we also wanted to talk a little bit more about severe weather. As we zoom this map all the way back out, this isn't a typical severe weather setup. Usually we get kind of the peak severe weather season through the plains, through the Midwest, the Gulf Coast states, as we get deeper into March and then especially into April and May. What the atmosphere is doing, or what the tornado and severe weather is doing, it's reacting to big shifts in the jet stream. Everything can be traced back to what's going on at about 30,000 feet. So you think about it, when we have winter, the Earth, especially North America, I hope especially North America, during winter is tilted away from the sun. So I use this clicker here. So you have the Earth. If North America is up here, the sun's over here. During winter, we're tilted away. As we go towards spring, we start tilting back towards the sun. And that's where, of course, the equinox comes into play. In summer, we tilt all the way towards the sun. I know it's very rudimentary, simple to understand, but the implications are so important. The transition from here to here, that warm up from winter to summer through spring causes the jet stream not to stay steady across the United States, but as the temperature changes, as that sun angle starts to shift, what it's going to do is start putting little buckles, big U's, in the jet stream. So that's why when we look at the climatology, there's usually a maximum in regards to severe weather and tornadoes and hail and wind reports in and around these months. About a month after we start to transition out of winter and into spring, because that jet stream is playing catch up. It's playing catch up to the sun angle, and there's a bit of a delay. So this, all that being said, this is kind of a primer. I keep saying false spring. There can be some very strong tornadoes. There are very strong thunderstorms. But when we match it up with climatology, typically that ends up happening about a month or a month and a half from now. Now, that being said, we just talked about Bloomington. It doesn't take, the climatology might be a month and a half from now, but we can still get those outlying events. And that's where we come all the way back to this. We got storm chances Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday back through Oklahoma, back into parts of St. Louis, Missouri, inching into Illinois and Indiana with that max being back down here towards Dallas. What we're seeing is Gulf moisture opening up and then some weak energy coming in from the north. But the dynamic shift in our temperatures, keep saying fall spring. I got 68 Friday, 70 Saturday. That is pretty dramatic for us. Well, think about those two battlegrounds coming in from the north, from the south, setting up severe weather back in Oklahoma. So keep that in mind if you have friends or family down to the south. I don't think us in Michiana have to worry too much about a lot of severe weather, but we may get a few stronger thunderstorms out of this complex. And what's interesting about it is it is going to be shifting depending on the day. So Wednesday, it's mainly down here towards parts of Tennessee, Illinois, southern Indiana, Missouri, as well as Louisiana and Texas. By Thursday, the focus of the energy actually shifts back over here. And it's not because it's physically shifting, it's a different part of the atmosphere rolling through, and those ingredients matching up towards the panhandle of Texas, into Oklahoma. In fact, Midland, Odessa. So I worked there for about 2 years, Midland, Odessa. It's the midland between El Paso and Dallas. Right in there is where we're looking at possible severe weather. Notice this stretches up to the north. It does not stretch to the east or to the northeast. That's going to be the best chance or the best locations for severe weather. And I'm thinking, based on what I was just looking at here about 10-15 minutes ago, we were on the air 10-15 minutes ago, it was more like 20 minutes ago, looking more like Thursday has the greatest potential for widespread severe weather, where you see that orange. And then by Friday and Saturday, a lot of that energy is still going to be out in the atmosphere, but the ingredients aren't going to combine for necessarily widespread severe weather. But we have to start talking about that. We're getting into that season as we get about a month, maybe a month and a half from now. That jet stream is going to start to shift, and we're going to look at more widespread severe weather possibly here. Again, still keeping an eye out for that kind of situation. Fall, spring this week. Back to winter next week. Here's a quick look at future tracks. So later on today and into our Wednesday, I wanted to pause this at 6 o'clock p.m. on Wednesday because tonight and into tomorrow, we drop down to around freezing, around 32 degrees. But if you're watching the morning show at all, this is going to be the last time that we're around freezing for a good week. I didn't say for the rest of the season or the rest of winter, for a good week. So Wednesday morning into Wednesday afternoon, we start that upward trend with our temperatures peaking out. Looks like Saturday at around 70 degrees. Weak cold front on Sunday, and then a much stronger cold front coming in next week. Well, this is Wednesday at 6 p.m. 20% chance of rain. I'm going to hold to that. I'll talk to Andrew later on this afternoon. We'll hold the 20% coming up for Wednesday. This is Wednesday at 6 p.m. Higher rain chances. Again, Thursday is that day that we're talking about down to our south with that severe weather potential. Thursday morning commute looks good, looks dry. It's late morning, early afternoon. We could pick up about a tenth, maybe a quarter of an inch of rainfall through the area. Notice the temperatures, 48, 50, 53, 51 in Rochester. Temperatures, the ground temperatures are still down below freezing. But with the rain working through air atmosphere around 45 to 50 degrees, that is going to warm the ground up. So by Saturday and Sunday, you may start to see spring trying to pop. Again, Mother Nature feeling the effects of not only the warm air, but the ground temperatures starting to come up as that warm rain, we'll call it warm rain, soaks into the ground. May get some of the process, spring process with the plants coming up for this weekend. Otherwise, by Thursday at 4 p.m., overall a wet day. Not a complete washout, but timing is going to be everything on Thursday. If you want to avoid the rain, there's going to be a few breaks. We got late morning with some rain coming through, and then later on in the evening. So that gives you first half of the day in the morning up until about 9, 10 o'clock. Then we have some rain coming through until about maybe 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then between 1 and, as you see here, about 4 o'clock, another push of some moisture coming in. So there's going to be about, I'd say, 4 hours, about 4 hours on Thursday where we're going to be dealing with rain that's going to be split up into kind of two bits and pieces. I'm being very vague about this because it is Tuesday. As we get into Wednesday, we'll really fine-tune the timing on this. But I at least want you to know that there's going to be kind of two pushes of rainfall coming through on Thursday. Otherwise, by Friday morning, back into a dry morning commute with temperatures around 50 degrees. Our average lower morning temperature is typically in the 20s. Friday, we're going to be waking up in the 40s and the 50s with, again, another shot at some rain on Friday and then again on Saturday. Now it's only Tuesday, so we got to save some stuff for Saturday regarding rain chances and timing. Coming up tomorrow at 10 a.m., we'll go ahead and do a deep dive not only into what to expect this weekend, if you have some of those outdoor plans, and I encourage you to make them as we're going to be around 70 degrees on Saturday, but also why we keep calling this a fall spring. Winter is coming back. It looks like next Wednesday, but we'll have a deep dive on that coming up tomorrow, right at 10 o'clock in the morning. Otherwise, it's 10:18. You got things to do. I got things to do. Let's go do them. Have a great day.